Hello, welcome to the channel. Subscribe, leave a like, and don't forget to write a comment. Enjoy watching.
It started with a ping, innocent enough, just a little buzz on my phone that I might have ignored if I hadn't been waiting to hear back from a potential investor. I picked it up half hoping, half dreading, and instead of a term sheet or a rejection, I saw a message from my sister, Candace, short and sharp like a slap in the face. Hey, just a quick heads up, dinner tonight is for high achievers only. Mom and Dad are on board. Hope you understand. I stared at it for a second, then reread it 3 more times like maybe it would change if I blinked slow enough. It didn't. Same tone, same smug undertone, same Candace. You'd think I'd be used to her by now, used to the little digs wrapped in pastel pleasantries, the backhanded compliments, the way she always managed to make me feel like the unpaid intern at my own family's table. Candace was the firstborn, the favorite, the one who could do no wrong even when she clearly did. She married a guy who looked like a Republican senator, popped out 1 kid on schedule, got a house with columns, and took up tennis like she was preparing to be step-forward wife of the year. Everything about her screamed status. And the worst part was, she played the role so convincingly, you almost forgot she wasn't kind. She never was. I didn't respond right away. What could I even say? Cool. Have fun excluding your sister who's been working 80-hour weeks trying to build something from scratch while you pose next to your Range Rover and Lululemon? Instead, I stared at my laptop screen, which had long gone dim, and listened to the quiet hum of my apartment, the only sound in the room besides the faint tapping of my thumb nervously against the table. There was no official family rule about high achievers. That was Candace's invention, like most rules in our house growing up. She set the standards, and the rest of us were supposed to either match her or step aside. When she got into Duke, I was still a sophomore in high school, and suddenly my straight A's at the public school weren't good enough. When she married Dale and had a honeymoon in the Maldives, my solo trip to Portland to meet indie app developers became cute. She always smiled when she said things like that, always. But her eyes? Her eyes were sharp as ice. So I stayed home. I microwaved a frozen lasagna and ate it straight out of the black plastic tray, not even bothering to plate it, because why pretend? I scrolled Instagram while I chewed, watched stories of my cousin Jordan clinking glasses with Candace in a white marble kitchen. There was laughter, a close-up of a seafood tower, a short video of Dale doing his classic bad British accent. God, he thought he was hilarious. I felt like I was watching a movie where I used to be cast, but got cut from the final version without explanation. Just gone. Rewritten out. The worst part? I wasn't even surprised. I'd always been the quiet one. Not shy, just quieter. I liked building things more than talking about them. While Candace was throwing Pinterest-worthy baby showers and making reels about her living room reno, I was running on coffee, burnout, and raw belief. No one in my family had even tried to understand my startup, an AI-based wellness app that took me 3 years of failed prototypes, sleepless nights, and borderline financial collapse to build. Oh, like a meditation app? Candace once said. That's nice. Nice. The same word she used for side salads and cheap wine. By the time I finished eating, the lasagna had congealed around the edges, cold in the middle. I dumped the rest into the trash, rinsed the tray, and sat back down on the couch with my laptop open but untouched. My inbox was full, but I couldn't bring myself to click on anything. I just sat there, surrounded by the faint smell of marinara and rejection, wondering how long it would take to stop caring that I'd never really been in with them. Then my phone buzzed again. Another notification. But this one wasn't from Candace. It was a push alert from TechCrunch. My eyes caught the headline mid-scroll, and I blinked hard, because even though I knew it was coming, I still wasn't ready. Breaking, MindNest closes $90 million series, be led by RZ Ventures and Clocktower Capital. I stared at it. Then I laughed. Just once. Quietly. $90 million. 90. Not 9. Not 19. The silence of my apartment shifted. It didn't feel empty anymore. It felt powerful, like a pause before something big, like thunder rolling in under a clear sky. I refreshed the article, read my own quote twice, and then read the part about our valuation. Candace wouldn't understand half of it, and that was the beauty. This wasn't a comeback post. This wasn't revenge porn for the soul. It was a flag planted in the soil of everything she couldn't touch. I didn't text anyone. Didn't screenshot it to the group chat. Didn't even forward it to Mom. I just closed the lid of my laptop slowly, leaned back into the worn-out couch cushions, and let the silence stretch long and proud. Let them eat shrimp cocktail. I just made history. And they don't even know it yet. I didn't plan on watching the whole thing, really. I told myself I'd glance at one story, maybe two, just enough to get a sense of how smug the evening was going to be. Then I'd get back to work or maybe pour a glass of wine and ignore the noise. But of course, one clip turned into three, and then suddenly I was sitting cross-legged on my couch, the volume turned down just enough not to make me flinch. Watching the highlight reel of a dinner I wasn't invited to like it was a live broadcast of my own humiliation. Candace's phone was all over it. She was doing her usual documentary-style updates, panning over the appetizers like she was hosting a Food Network special, giving little commentaries between sips of Sauvignon Blanc and calling Dale her resident genius every 5 minutes like he'd just invented the polio vaccine instead of getting promoted at a law firm nobody outside of 3 counties has even heard of. They were all dressed up, of course. Candace in her usual overpriced maxi dress that screams casual elegance in the most calculated way. Dale in a linen button-down that probably cost more than my rent back when I lived in Echo Park. My parents were there too, looking mildly uncomfortable in that way they always do when Candace has taken control of a situation, which is always, but pretending to be thrilled nonetheless. I caught a glimpse of my cousin Jordan, the one who works in pharmaceutical sales and still brags about his college GPA like it's a personality trait, and even he looked starstruck when Candace made the announcement that Dale was now the youngest partner in firm history, as if she had just handed out golden tickets to the damn chocolate factory. I sat with my laptop open in front of me, the TechCrunch article still up on one tab, the funding announcement waiting like a weapon I hadn't drawn yet. I could have texted it to the group. I could have replied to Candace's smug story with the article link and a little oops, forgot to invite a millionaire to dinner comment. Hell, I could have posted the screenshot on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook all at once with some self-congratulatory caption like everyone else does when they close a round. But I didn't. I just let them have their dinner. I let them laugh and toast and talk about mortgages and Dale's new Tesla as if that were the peak of personal achievement. I didn't need to be there. I already won, and they didn't even know they were playing the game. At one point in the video, Candace said, "You know, it's just so validating when hard work pays off," and I nearly choked on my tea. Hard work? Her version of hard work was planning school fundraisers and arguing with contractors about tile grout. And look, I'm not here to bash stay-at-home moms or anyone managing a household. It's labor, it's real, it's constant. But Candace? Candace did it like it was performance art. Like everything had to be framed and filtered and proven. They've been married for 14 years now. Or maybe it's 13. Wait, no, if they met in 2012, that makes it 16 years, right? God, I should know this. I was maid of honor at that wedding, standing beside her while she cried about the man of her dreams and how she couldn't believe she was so lucky, even though Dale had already started cheating on her at that point. She didn't know then, but I did. That's the thing about family. We hold each other's truths like loaded guns and pretend we're not itching to fire them. So yeah, I watched the whole dinner unfold through shaky iPhone stories and filtered pictures of flower arrangements that probably cost more than my first MacBook, and I felt something twist in my chest, but not pain exactly, more like a realization. That they needed this more than I did. That Candace needed to build these stages to stand on because she couldn't build anything real herself. Her whole life was curated. My life was coded, broken, rebuilt, launched, failed, then rebuilt again. She would never understand what it cost me to get here. She wouldn't even want to. Around midnight, just as I was closing my laptop, the family group chat pinged. I hadn't opened it all day. The last message before this one was my dad sending some blurry photo of his backyard tomatoes like he always did. But this message was from Candace, of course. She'd labeled it with 3 little stars at the top. Big family announcement coming tomorrow at brunch. I could almost hear the smugness radiating through the screen. I stared at it for a moment, thumb hovering over the keyboard, and then I typed the simplest reply I could muster. Looking forward to it. No exclamation marks, no hint of sarcasm, just a single, measured sentence. And I hit send. Then I laughed to myself, not loud, just a little shake of the shoulders, because what she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that tomorrow wasn't her moment. It was mine. And I wasn't going to take it back. I was going to let it walk in, sit down, and speak for itself. Sunday brunch had always been Candace's idea of church, her sacred weekly tradition where everything from the table settings to the conversational hierarchy was planned with the same meticulousness she used to organize her wedding. The dining room had been redone recently, white oak floors, light blue paneling, those damn restoration hardware chairs that look like they cost a mortgage payment each. There were tiny vases of lavender at every place setting, and the napkins were folded like birds, which told me she'd been on Pinterest again, probably up until midnight coordinating details no one asked for. The smell of maple bacon and oversweet cinnamon French toast drifted through the house like a bribe. And yet, even with the effort, there was an undercurrent of tension humming underneath the surface, at least for me. I showed up in jeans and a clean black tee, no makeup, hair in a half bun, looking exactly like the girl Candace expected to keep failing in silence. She opened the door wearing soft cream cashmere and a smile that almost looked real, kissed me on the cheek like we hadn't spoken since her high achievers only text, and acted as if everything was normal. She was good at that, pretending. Hell, she'd built a whole identity on it. I walked inside and scanned the room. Mom was fussing with place settings even though we'd be sitting in the same spots we always did. Dad was sipping his watery coffee and staring at his phone like it had answers for questions he didn't want to ask out loud. Dale was laughing too hard at something Jordan said, already deep into his second mimosa even though it wasn't even 11. When we all finally sat down, the chatter swelled like a balloon about to pop. Jordan was rambling about some biotech merger nobody cared about. My uncle threw in a weird joke about inflation and gas prices, and Candace kept glancing at her phone like she was waiting for cue cards. Then, halfway through the second round of Bloody Marys, she clinked her glass lightly with a spoon and smiled like she'd just won Miss America. "I have some news," she said, standing up a little too slowly, like she was giving herself time to make sure the spotlight hit just right. "Dale and I are expecting." The way she said it, expecting, not pregnant, already felt like branding. She beamed down at everyone like she'd just solved global warming with her uterus. Cheers erupted, forks hit plates, Mom gasped and cried all at once, and even Dad managed a real smile. Dale stood, kissed her hand like it was the 1800s, and said, "Baby number 2, coming February." It was ridiculous. It was exactly what I expected. I sat there, polite but silent, sipping coffee I hadn't asked for, and waited for the moment I knew would come next. Because it always did. Someone would remember I existed. And someone always asked the same question. "So, Leah," came Jordan's voice, casual but just a little smug. "What VE you been up to these days?" "Still working on that little app thing." "That little app thing." I nearly laughed, but I didn't. Instead, I set my fork down carefully on the plate, dabbed my mouth with the overpriced linen napkin Candace had undoubtedly spent an hour ironing, and looked directly at him with a calm that almost felt artificial. I could feel Candace watching me, waiting to see if I'd crumble or grovel or spin some half-hearted update about coding and early-stage struggles. She wanted me to stay small, as always. That was the role she had written for me. But I'd outgrown it. I think Forbes will explain it better than I can, I said, and pulled out my phone with the kind of deliberate slowness that draws attention. Then I opened the article, the one with my photo at the top, the one with the headline they couldn't ignore if they tried, and I dropped the link right into the family group chat, where it lit up in that familiar iMessage blue. I watched Candace's smile freeze like a screen buffering under weak Wi-Fi. Dale squinted at his phone. Mom blinked and reached for her reading glasses. My dad, God bless him, tilted his head like a dog hearing a new word. Silence hit the room like a brick through glass. No one moved. No one spoke. They all read the headline in pieces, and then the shock rolled through the room in slow waves. MindNest secures $90 million Series B funding. Founder Leah Hartley named one of tech's most promising innovators. No one clapped. No one cheered. It was quiet in a way brunch at Candace's had never been. And I didn't smile. I didn't gloat or explain or soften it for their comfort. I just sipped my coffee again and let it burn a little on the way down. Because this moment wasn't about revenge. It was about silence finally getting a turn to speak. It took less than 4 hours after brunch for the news to finish its quiet little march from impressive to undeniable. What started as a press release with modest distribution hit TechCrunch early Sunday afternoon and then metastasized across platforms like a wildfire, the kind that feeds on disbelief and then fuels itself with envy. My face, still that old headshot with half-grown-out bangs and a tired smile I'd meant to update for months, was suddenly everywhere. It was on LinkedIn trending feeds under Women in Tech. It was quoted in a tweet by some startup bro with 1 million followers who called me a dark horse genius, and it was even floating around a few Reddit threads, where people debated whether our valuation made sense or if it was just another bubble wrapped in sleek UX. I didn't post anything myself, not at first. There was no announcement from me, no grateful to my team caption with a studio-lit photo. I didn't repost the articles or even like the tweets. It all happened without my voice, which made it louder somehow. The silence I gave them left room to fill with their own projections, their own ideas of who I was, and how exactly they had all missed it. But the family group chat? That was a different story. At first, it was quiet, like everyone needed a collective breath to figure out how to approach me now. Then came the storm, fast and stupid and messy in all the predictable ways. Mom was the first to break the tension. She sent a text that read, "Wow, honey, this is big. We're proud of you, of course." The "of course" at the end irritated me more than it should have, like she'd retroactively assigned support where there had been mostly polite confusion and awkward subject changes. Dad followed with a thumbs-up emoji and a "way to go, sweetheart," which was about as emotionally loaded as he got unless someone died or the Yankees made the playoffs. But Candace? Candace took a little longer. When she finally said something, it was a strange combination of awe and control, like she was trying to rewrite the memory of the last 24 hours with a few carefully placed exclamation points. "Leah, why didn't you tell us sooner? This is huge. We would have celebrated you at brunch." That line, "celebrated you at brunch," nearly made me laugh out loud. Like she was going to shift the spotlight from her pregnancy reveal to toast the sister she hadn't invited to dinner 2 nights ago. As if her designer table runner had space for 2 big moments in one weekend, and mine should have come second anyway. I didn't respond right away. Not because I was being petty or trying to play hard to get, but because I was genuinely busy for the first time in weeks. My inbox had become a war zone of potential advisors, journalists, investor introductions, and people who once ghosted me in pitch rooms now crawling back with compliments. It was hilarious. It was exhausting. It was overdue. So I let the messages sit there and buzz and pile up while I did what I always do, kept working. Eventually, Rachel, my oldest friend and the only one who'd ever asked about MindNest without condescension, sent me a screenshot of the group chat and added a note that just said, "She's spiraling, babe. Thought you should know." That was when I checked again. Candace had shifted tones entirely. After the first wave of fake excitement, she'd started throwing in little jabs like stones hidden in cake batter. So proud of my little sis, even if she did hijack brunch, followed by a winky face. Then a meme of a cartoon girl holding a me sign. Then, finally, what I could only describe as the closest thing Candace had ever come to confrontation. Not saying you did it on purpose, she wrote. But the timing was kinda harsh. Just saying. People were there to support my news too. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I almost replied with something scathing, something honest. Like, you mean the brunch I wasn't supposed to be at? Or was hijacking your second pregnancy announcement worse than being disinvited for not being successful enough? But I didn't. I'd learned over the years that silence from me hit harder than any sentence I could craft. So instead, I heart-reacted to Mom's earlier message and left Candace on read. That night, as I closed my laptop for the fourth time, every time trying to go to sleep and failing, I saw one final notification blink across my screen. It was from Candace, but this time it wasn't in the group chat. A private message. No stickers. No exclamation points. Just a single sentence that didn't read like her usual chirpy self. You're not the only one with secrets. There was no follow-up. No context. Just that line. I stared at it long enough to feel the weight of every possible interpretation press down on my chest like an anvil. And for the first time since the funding closed, I wasn't thinking about the press, or the money, or the app, or the next round. I was thinking about what she meant. And what she might do next. I didn't even have to go looking for it. Like most ugly things, it found its way to me when I least expected it, sliced open, blood on the floor, no warning. The email arrived on a gray Tuesday morning, right between a term sheet review and a press call, with the kind of subject line you don't ignore. Thought this might interest you. Hope it's not real. It was from a VC associate I'd met a year ago at a forgettable pitch event in Santa Monica. We'd never worked together, never even made it past the second follow-up call, but he'd been kind, respectful, the kind of guy who remembered names even when he didn't have to. Inside the email was a forwarded pitch deck, sloppy, underdesigned, and filled with stolen language. I knew it instantly. I didn't even have to read past slide 2. The structure was identical. The branding? Suspiciously adjacent. The product concept? A stripped-down, soulless imitation of MindNest, pitched under a different name, Mindspace, as if slapping a new label on a stolen idea made it original. But the worst part wasn't the knockoff itself. No, the worst part was the name attached to it. Not Candace, of course. That would have been too bold even for her. Instead, it was listed under a small LLC, one I recognized as Dale's side business, something he'd set up years ago supposedly to diversify income streams, but which had never been used for anything except tax write-offs and bad real estate gambles. I clicked the business registration link. Sure enough, 2 names sat on that page, Dale and Candace. For a few seconds, I just sat there, staring at the screen, trying to reconcile the gall it must have taken to rip off my life's work and walk into a pitch room thinking no one would ever connect the dots. She hadn't just dismissed me at family dinners, hadn't just rolled her eyes at my late nights and ramen-fueled hustling. She'd taken my idea, or at least what she thought it was, and tried to sell it as her own. Not support it. Not believe in it. Sell it. Behind my back. To strangers. And she had the audacity to text me a day earlier and say, "You're not the only one with secrets." The first thing I felt wasn't rage, it was disappointment. A thick, sour feeling that crawled into my chest and settled behind my ribs like a stone. Because despite everything, despite the rivalry and the digs and the years of being shoved to the sidelines, some part of me still believed that Candace wouldn't do this. That she might be petty, shallow, competitive, sure, but not treacherous. But she was. She had looked at what I built and thought, I could do that too, like it was a Pinterest project or a spin class, or something you pick up and drop when you get bored. I called the VC who'd forwarded the email. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I simply thanked him for the heads up, confirmed that yes, I knew the people behind that deck, and no, I wouldn't be taking legal action. Not yet. He laughed, not unkindly, and told me the pitch had bombed. Apparently, Candace hadn't expected technical questions, couldn't explain the user flow, and panicked when someone asked about server costs. Dale tried to pivot to Vision, but it fell flat. No one bought in. It died in the room. So I did what I do best. I said nothing, but I sent a package. A thank you basket, actually. Artisan chocolate, fancy tea, a small bottle of bourbon, and a printed card that read, in my cleanest handwriting, "Thanks for helping my fake sister fail early. You saved me millions." L. I didn't sign the full name. I didn't have to. It was elegant. It was brutal. It was mine. 2 hours later, Candace left the family group chat. No explanation. No goodbye. Just gone. Mom called later that night, sounding concerned, like maybe she finally noticed that the golden child had a few cracks in her veneer. "Do you know what happened?" she asked. "She won't talk to anyone." I told her I hadn't heard anything, which was, technically, the truth. Dad texted me a few hours after that with a gif of a microphone drop. I didn't respond, but it made me laugh. Candace still hasn't reached out. And I haven't sent another message. I never said a word. But they all finally heard me.